Hey there, it's Sam. I'm sitting here waiting for a train in the Martinez, California train station. I had a few minutes and I thought I would shoot this quick video about things that are happening this week, big changes this week. We have Jupiter moving into Leo, as we know. If you haven't seen, I do have a free web class that talks about Jupiter moving into Leo for the next year. It's going to be fantastic. It'll be about 13 months, so there'll be great opportunities for all of us to really align our principles with our consistent action and really step up, especially those of us who are a spiritual type of people who say that that's what we want in our life. Well, the next year or so is a great time for you to walk the talk, because Jupiter, who is the power of your teachings and your principles, is going to be on the throne in Leo, which is the sign of the king, the consistent power. And so you'll see a great opportunity at that time. Now, in the web class, you'll also hear me talking about things like religious fundamentalism and those kinds of things that, make sure that's not my train, it's not, my train is not early, religious fundamentalism that can disrupt a smooth sort of social and political process and progress. And I noticed here, even today, I'm recording this on Monday, the 13th, I noticed there was a few things in the news about these Republican candidates declaring that God spoke to them and told them to be president, and already we're seeing this mixing of church and state, politics and religion. And of course we have a lot of religious fundamentalism all over the world. Some people, they worship at the altar of politics, that is their religion or whatever. So fundamentalism can be rampant with Jupiter and Leo. Again, I break all this down on the web class, so you want to register for that and make sure to check it out, because I go through the whole gamut also for all 12 signs. So that's happening this week. The other thing that's happening is Mercury and Mars are making their final conjunction. They first, Mercury first passed Mars in Aries. I think it was in March or April, and then Mercury went retrograde over Mars in like May, and then, or early June, I don't remember exactly, and now Mercury, actually I think it was in May, and now Mercury is going to pass Mars. Again, we're getting this final pass of Mercury past Mars, and so that's going to really, and it's happening in Gemini, so it's showing a lot of this sort of contentiousness around ideas, the battle over political ideas that we've seen the last few months. While we were in the middle of that the last time, I talked about a few key issues, especially when Mercury went retrograde over Mars. Among them, I mentioned Bernie Sanders, I mentioned that trade deal, I mentioned a few other things as being key issues, and we've seen quite a few of those things flesh out. So we may see the continued emergence of those things, and in particular in light of what I just said about the resurgence of religious fundamentalism, especially as it relates to in the political process. These are all pretty salient issues that we're going to be looking at for the next year, especially with Jupiter going into Leo, and we'll see some of this, some of these ideas, at play in the public arena, even over the next few weeks or so as Mars passes Mercury, and in particular this week we may see even more sort of battling over ideas. We can see how some of that has happened, like for instance recently with Donald Trump. He's certainly a Mars, Mercury, and Gemini type of person. He's really thrown a sort of turd in the punch bowl in the Republican political process. You're seeing so many news stories about how the Republicans wish he would shut up and go away. Should be some pretty interesting political theater. It's very Mars, Mercury, and Gemini. I mean, I think it's pretty funny myself, and you can see how his fiery rhetoric is really, like I say, throwing a sort of turd in the punch bowl with the Republicans. And again, we also had all of these recent social issues that we had been arguing about and battling about as it relates to healthcare and even like the some people pass, even like the same-sex marriage debate and whatnot. This is very reminiscent of this Mercury-Mars position that's been happening for the last several months. So, you know, you want to notice these trends. They don't just happen like, oh, this week, da-da-da. You know, when planets go retrograde and forward and back over each other, they show things that have been going on for a while and things that will sustain a little longer. So those are a couple big things happening this week. Jupiter changing signs, Mercury and Mars coming together. Venus is also slowing down in the sky. It's going to go retrograde on July 26th. So that's also happening. So big things. And you know, one of the big things about Jupiter in Leo, I already know it's going to be great for my certification course. I already have a lot of students registered and a lot of enthusiasm. It's a great time to actually study astrology, make a commitment to your teachings. This is really what Leo is about, a commitment, fixed fire, to your teachings, Jupiter. So it's a great time for you to study. So there's a link below this video or somewhere here where you can also get on the list to get information about my certification course. Had 43 graduates this year. It's a huge, huge course where you get hands-on attention and detail so you can really learn how to do this, either professionally or just really learn how this stuff works for yourself, for your own edification. So again, whether you get certified with me or whatever, you need to study seriously. You need to study with an actual teacher who's been doing it a long time, instead of just, you know, gobbling little bits of information here and there and thinking that you're learning something. You know, you don't learn something until you go deeply into it. So, you know, the metaphor is, rather than digging a lot of shallow holes all over the place thinking that you're going to strike oil or strike water, what you need to do is take that same attention and dig one deep hole straight to the source. And in order to do that, you need someone who has already dug the hole, who's already trained others to dig the hole, and get aligned with what they're doing. So again, I hope you think about that for your own benefit and for the benefit of those who you can help in the future. But beyond all that, should be an interesting week, some very, you know, fascinating times with Jupiter changing signs, Mars, Mercury, these planets in Gemini, and we also have the new moon in Gemini, which I'll be talking about as well, which is going to start. This is actually the second new moon in Gemini, but I'll make another video about that. But anyway, I just had a little time here before my train comes. I need to get in there now, and I hope you're doing well. So that new moon is happening in Gemini on June 15th, on Wednesday at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon here Pacific time. So I decided to add this to the video that I shot at the station. Important stuff. This is happening in the nakshatra of Punarvasu. So this is actually the second new moon in Gemini. The last new moon was also in Gemini. It's really kind of, you know, has a kind of foreshadowing toward Taurus energy, but the actual new moon takes place in Gemini. So this is going to, you know, have a recurring theme of ideas, communication. One of the things that we can see that just happened in the news is that Iran nuclear deal has been formalized, which really shows a coming together of ideas that we've been battling over. I mean, obviously, you know, the philosophies of the East and West, and negotiating a settlement to our, you know, to a nuclear deal. Whatever you think of it, I'm not judging the politics of it. I'm just saying that the deal was agreed to. Mercury, Mars coming together, where we're battling over ideas and coming to an agreement. That's one example of this Mercury, Mars, you know, sort of closing. But within that also, we have Jupiter is now in Leo. It just went into Leo, so it's like less than 1 degree, but established in Leo. We're seeing, as I say, a lot of these stories about the Pope. You know, the Pope is like in the news. The Republicans in the U.S. are definitely asserting a lot of, you know, God claims and things like that. So in addition, it's the time for us to really follow our teachings, like I said in the earlier part of the video. But this new moon in Gemini also has to do with Punarvasu Nakshatra, which is about the return of the light after the darkness and the flood and explosiveness of Ardra Nakshatra, which is the previous one. We have the return of the light in Punarvasu. The deity is called Aditi, who is the mother of the Adityas. So it's kind of like a divine mother energy. So it can show some rebirth and renewal around those themes that I just talked about. So as I say, we can see this kind of negotiation of a peace deal. At the very least, I tend to think there's progress when those things happen, however cynical I may be in other ways. The reason is because of the sanctions of the Western world against the Iranian economy. So for whatever short-term gain, there's been a benefit. And of course, like I said, the establishment of Jupiter now going into Leo really holds a lot of promise. You're really seeing, though, this, I think we're going to really see how religion can be a tool for good or evil or difficulty. You can see where the Pope is really ruffling feathers, talking bad about, capitalism, and, God is not money, is not the real money. Money is the new golden calf, really kind of making it hard for Republicans to agree with him. Anyway, so this new moon in general is going to set off a trajectory for the next 30 days. Those in my member site also get to see how this affects their sign. So if you want to see how this is going to influence your sign, because it'll be different. It's a different cycle for a Capricorn than it is for an Aries, for instance, because Gemini falls in a different house. So if you're interested in that, you can join my member site for only 1 penny. Find out how that's going to influence you. Either way, I hope you have a good month, and I'll be in touch.